Hello everybody, and I hope that you have been enjoying the Path to Carcosa week. We are here to close this out with one final video that is going to be looking at a bunch of different content creators. I'm going to be asking them questions about the Path to Carcosa because we've talked a lot about the Path to Carcosa on this channel, and I think other perspectives are very interesting. Rather than hear us say the same sort of things we always say, I want to bring some different voices here and get some different perspective, because let me tell you, a lot of these perspectives are very cool. I enjoy doing this. I enjoy talking with other content creators and sharing their thoughts with you. My hope is that maybe you can find some new content creators that you might be interested in, and you can find all of their details down in the video description. Like the one in Dunwich Legacy Week, we are joined by Beard, Daniel from Quick Learner, Head Librarian Chad from the Restricted Collection, and Dare BK. Additionally, we have a new entrant into this series, Jay from 3 Minute Board Games. If you don't know that channel, you should check it out as well. He does 3 Minute Board Games and also does some Arkham retrospectives, as he is currently playing through all of the campaigns. Thank you again for your support over Carcosa Week. This may be the last video in our scheduled thing, but today, if you're watching this on the day this came out on October 26th, 2025, 2 hours from the time this video goes live at 9 a.m. Mountain Time, Daniel and I are going to be starting our Iron Man run through the Path to Carcosa. While we said don't expect this to be a regular thing for all of these theme weeks, we were able to make it work for Path to Carcosa, and we had fun, a blast doing the first one, and we're very much looking forward to doing the next one. So you can check that out, Twitch description. I'll remind you again at the end of the video. But in the meantime, buckle up, get ready for the interviews, enjoy all this talking from some other content creators, and I'll see you all at the end of this. When did you first play the Path to Carcosa?
I played the Path to Carcosa as it was coming out, way back whenever this originally came out. So it was exciting to get it and to have something new that was not just, it was something building upon the core set, and did a lot of really good cards that we desperately needed at the time. But it added some new mechanics as opposed to just building upon it, which was nice.
I think this was when I was still playing with a friend's copy in late 2018, early 2019, somewhere around there. Because that was around the time that I really got hooked by the game and decided that I wanted to make homebrew for it. Because I think that's the case with a lot of people. They have a good time with Dunwich, and then they're like really grabbed by Carcosa. And once I had that experience, I knew I wanted to make stuff for this game.
So, Carcosa was actually the last campaign I got my hands on when I started playing in 2020. So I already had Dunwich, TFA, TCU, Dream Eaters under my belt at that point, and it was just difficult to get. So it took a moment to get there, but it was good. Good times we had. I was playing Min and Tony. It was a win. Tony got 18 horror in the final scenario. All classics.
Right after we played Dunwich, so it was mid-2020, maybe a little bit later into 2020. So again, that whole time when I was first getting into the game, just went one campaign after another. So right away, it was the first campaign where we thought we knew what we were doing. And I played a Daisy Walker deck, and it was a good time. It wasn't playing with Taboo or anything. I have this deck still on Arkham DB, and it's wild. There's one of everything. There's no two copies of anything. But yeah, it was just like, here are all the really good cards in Seeker, and at the end of the campaign, I realized there was a problem.
So the funny thing with my Arkham story is it starts back when the game was released, 2016. I got really into it. We played Dunwich, we had a regular group, and then a whole bunch of other stuff happened to us. So that group kind of disintegrated. Then we had the 6-in-1 sales model they had, where they put out the starter box and then you have the 6 little packs. And in New Zealand, that was an absolute nightmare. So I got the starter box for Carcosa when it came out. And then we stopped playing Arkham, and we didn't get back into it until they re-released everything as the big boxes. So my first actual playthrough of Carcosa was probably only 2 years ago now.
What moment do you remember most from the Path to Carcosa?
It's a fairly memorable campaign overall, but the scenario that seems to create the most stories for me is The Last King. And in particular, I remember one play of it where Stella got it into her head that nobody was going to survive the whole thing, and so she took a chainsaw and just went to town on the whole scenario. There were no survivors, not even the crazed guests from the Return to Carcosa or anyone. There were no survivors.
The thing that stresses me out every time, even to this day, is escaping the asylum. That is the thing that like sticks out to me as like the big tension point, the big stressor. And it's funny because I've never actually gotten caught in the asylum until this year, when I was taking my solo Iron Man deck through. I was taking George through Carcosa, and I just got totally destroyed by number 4, and so I took a 2-hour break for my Iron Man, and I came back and I'm like, okay, so here's my Gloria deck. Let's go.
I think the things I remember most from the Path to Carcosa aren't necessarily around the scenario design as such, or things that happened during a scenario. There were some memorable moments within the scenarios, like reading the bit at the end of the Asylum where it was like, oh, if we hadn't done that, we would have probably died. That was pretty cool. It was the meta stuff that really stuck out to me. It's all the stuff around not saying a certain word, and but there was one moment where there was a card on the table of some sort. I can't even remember what scenario it was in. And a friend of mine looked at it. He peeked at he flipped it over and said, oh, we didn't flip that one. Flipped it over, and there were consequences for doing that. And I just laughed my ass off at that. I thought that kind of meta play around the game, that the game itself was acting like an unreliable narrator towards you, was a really neat facet of Path to Carcosa. And the things that stuck out for me was all that metagaming around the game itself.
I think it'd have to be in the party the first time a guest flipped. I don't even remember which one it was because like they all eventually flipped, so they all blended together, but just was not something that I was expecting at the time, and it was a very cool moment.
Okay, I think this was playing Black Star's Rise, where you get to, I mean, figuring out the whole Doom agenda thing is cool, but what I remember most was getting to the last couple locations at the end, and it has some kind of a funny way for you to discover clues, right? You can only do it if you have, 3 or fewer remaining sanity or something, or no cards in hand. I was like, oh my God, what are they making me do? And that was really fun. Plus the other location, because we felt like we had enough time the first time I played this, that has an absurd number of clues and has no text other than Victory 2. And I was just like, let's go, archaic glyphs, higher education, let's just get all 9 clues at once. I don't think it was in one action, but it must have been like 2. And that was fun.
What makes the Path to Carcosa feel like the Path to Carcosa to you?
Everything. So a little bit of backstory is that we've played a lot of the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game with my group, and we played through this campaign called The Tatters of the King. It took us 2 years. And it starts off with you going to a play. And when the play is halfway through, everyone goes mad, and crazy stuff starts happening. It's a riot, and all that kind of stuff. And we immersed ourselves in this campaign, playing it every week, as I say, for 2 years. So, like, nearly 100 sessions of this massive, epic campaign that went all the way around the world, into the Himalayas, onto the Plateau of Ling, to Carcosa twice, because we went there midpoint and then escaped and then went back. It was just this big, epic thing. And then this Arkham horror campaign hit so many of those same notes, so many of that same vibe of chasing the stranger. Like, who's the stranger? Who's that guy behind the mask? Castor is coming. Like, what is Carcosa? All those... It's just the vibe. It really is a sort of overall feel to the campaign rather than any specific mechanical thing. But if there is a mechanic I'd latch onto, it'd be the doubt versus conviction. But are you believing your own eyes? Are you believing that this play can do these things to these people? That the King in Yellow is capable of creating so much change and so much violence in people. And yeah, Carcosa has to, all that kind of stuff. I just love the idea of, Carcosa coming down to Earth and merging with our realities. And I think the campaign did a damn great job of capturing that feel all the way through.
It's probably just the meta narrative because the individual scenarios aren't particularly strong outside of a few exceptions. But the fact that the game makes you think about it in between scenarios and even when you're not playing is what makes the Path to Carcosa the package deal that everyone knows it for.
Of all the meta stuff, what would you say your favorite little meta inclusion is?
Don't say Haster.
Yeah, it is really good. It is very good.
So maybe a bit of a hot take, but Carcosa is maybe the only campaign where I can say that I fully enjoy it from back to front. Like, there's no pits where I dread setting the scenario up or anything. It's just constantly good to great all throughout. Even the campaigns that I like very lot otherwise, like Forgotten Age or Innsmouth, they all have things where I need to get over a hump, and I just don't have that with Carcosa. It's consistent. That's my big thing with it.
This is a tough question because there's so many things that make the Path to Carcosa so great. So a great campaign makes it feel like Carcosa. But no, really, I think it's the way that it manipulates the players in various facets. So clearly the hidden card mechanic is cool and interesting in this campaign. They brought it back later, and I don't think it makes as much sense in Dream Eaters. Like, I don't know why it's there other than potentially the very last scenario of one side of the campaign. But here it actually thematically makes sense. And I just think that the game screws with you that in ways that are interesting. It adds a bunch of cool weaknesses to your deck. It scales the difficulty up later. So I feel like it just has all of these ways that it's trying to poke and prod at you to make you play maybe a little bit more uncomfortably. So that's what the campaign really means to me towards the end, especially.
First word that came to my mind was inconsistency, but that's not how I mean it. What I mean to say is that sense of the unreliable narrator of second guessing everything. Like, oh, okay, why am I choosing to do thing A or thing B? Why can I go back to the party? Why is the party fine when I go back to it? Why do I get the Clasp of Black Onyx, but it doesn't do anything? But I would only have the option to do the thing with the Clasp of Black Onyx if I hadn't gotten the Clasp of Black. Like, it's such this intentional, are you sure? That it's perfect for this feel, for this campaign, to make you feel like, oh yeah, are you actually going a little crazy here? Are you crazy? Are I crazy? Are we crazy? Are they crazy? Somebody's crazy, but we just don't know who it is.
What would you say the Path to Carcosa's biggest success was?
I think its biggest success was just making players really question their decisions. Because any other campaign, like even to this day, you're reasonably certain of what you're going to get based on what your decision is, but based on doubt or conviction, you really don't know. Every single decision point, the game makes a point of going, are you sure that was the right decision? You really sure? Yeah. Okay, we're going to go with it.
Aside from the consistency thing, I really like how it doesn't ask anything specific from you. You can take any investigators, and as long as they are built in a competent way and they have solid decks, they will do well. There's no traps like you need to have this amount of willpower, or you have a bad time, or you need, I don't know, have to have specific things in your deck to do well. It's very low on demands.
I think this might be more of like a community view of it, but I think its biggest success is its overwhelming status and its pedestal that has been put upon, that it has survived, I'm just going to say 8 years, effectively, atop of this pedestal for the community, that it is such a touchstone that everyone in the community can point to as, this is a real great campaign. If you're new, it's still a real great campaign. and you can go to it from there, and that's great. I think that's its lasting legacy, at least in my view.
All right. So last time when we talked about Dunwich, I said, "Hey, they made a campaign and it worked, right?"
Yeah.
And that was the biggest success. Here, it was showing that they can have this cohesive idea for a campaign and it being incredibly polished. And it really feels like, while there's some ups and downs in terms of like the level throughout the whole campaign, I feel like it just feels like a really fair campaign and one that is rewarding for you playing well. So there's no, I've never heard anyone say that Carcosa is like extremely unfair or has these gotcha moments that you just rage quit. That doesn't mean there aren't tough scenarios or tough moments, but it feels like it is doable, it is fun for anyone, and you leave playing it like, hey, that was a great time. Let's do
Yeah.
this again.
So straight up, I think the scenario design here. I think you've got 8 scenarios in the campaign. I would say 4 of them are Hall of Fame scenarios. 2 of them are pretty damn good, and 2 of them are kind of. And that is a really awesome hit rate for a campaign. Like I think maybe Hemlock Vale's probably got as good a scenario design, but I don't like the preludes, which is a bugbear of mine. But overall, just the consistent quality of the scenarios from start to finish. Well, from start to second to last is really, really high. So the only 2 I really don't consider particularly great are the third one and the finale. And even then, I don't dislike them. I think they're just kind of middling scenarios. But the asylum, the party, the catacombs, and being chased around Paris by the spooky organist, those are all awesome top tier scenarios. And I think it's just hit after hit after hit as you play through the campaign. And I think that's probably its biggest success is, cool, you've got this cool theme, you've implemented that theme well, but the scenarios on top of that are excellent and really replayable.
What would you say the Path Carcosa's biggest failure was?
Okay, it's nitpick time. The campaign is really good, so failure is an overstatement. But I think the doubt and conviction thing is a bit underbaked. To me, I wish that there was a bit more of a clear middle ground of what you could do, because I think on many people's blind plays you are just like making choices, and then the payoff to having more on one side versus the other side is really just at the end of the campaign where you're picking which version of Haster you're fighting. And if you're right down the middle, you're equal doubt and conviction, you get to choose, and it's like, cool, all right, that's fine. But other than that, right, most people at least make some choices that are, I don't know if about optimal is the right word, but potentially, right? The burning all of the party guests is just kind of the easier thing to do, and there's no downside for doing this other than one mental trauma later. I mean, I don't think there's really anything else that is super interesting with what route you're going down. There's that third route. You can do it where you don't have very much doubt or conviction at all. That's like pretty hard to do. You have to really metagame it, which I guess is cool and fine. But I don't know. I kind of feel like there should be a little bit more going on with these choices rather than just how Phantom of Truth plays and what happens at the end. I think they could have done a bit more, because at the end you're kind of like, okay. And I think the same goes for the Chasing the Stranger, the Man in the Pallid Mask. I think the tick marks that you make just is the number of doom you start the last scenario with, which is not nothing, but it feels like a very forgettable payoff for something that you're doing and trying to do the entire campaign. I think the best reason to do it during the campaign is getting rid of him from play, because there's that one treachery that's kind of annoying. So I think they could have done a bit more there with that, give you a better reward for, chasing him down or for following these doubt or conviction routes.
I think a lot of it still suffered from early Arkham just design principles that don't hold up today. The biggest thing that in my mind is like the party guests not having per player scaling health. And I think I put this on the Carcosa questionnaire you put a while ago, but like if you're doing the party as like a 1 or 2 player group, you suddenly have to come up with a huge amount of damage to deal with Jordan Perry on top of everything else that happens. Whereas in a four-player group, you're like, all right, the two people who are equipped to fight right now can deal with him while the other people keep going. Whereas it's a gigantic roadblock, if not like, okay, we're just gonna resign to evading him every round for the rest of the game now because we're not going to be able to deal 10 damage to him when he keeps healing himself. So a lot of that stuff where, like, stuff they wouldn't have done looking back at it, but it's what they had built up to that point. So it's not that they didn't really know any better. It's just sort of they were committed to doing that style of design and then seeing where it led to. So it's rougher than a lot of modern campaigns, and it does have a charm because of that, but I do think it is a failure of what makes it from being like the absolute best Arkham campaign that ever was. It's one of my favorites, but it's not my absolute favorite.
It's it so we're just going to do a quick aside to give the background to the rest of my answer. I like Carcosa. Carcosa is great. I have a fun time playing Carcosa. Do I have any like major like this is a big failure point? No. But on my like hierarchy of the campaigns, it's mid-tier. It's fine, it's good, there's nothing wrong with it. I have no issues playing it, but it's not super interesting to me anymore. It has ceased being interesting to me for a while now. It's still fun to play, but like I know the things. I know that when I enter the asylum, I'm just gonna set fire to the kitchen. Why? Because I need to. Like I just know that I need to. That's not interesting anymore as like a story point. Hey, look, I like the first scenario. It's like I know what I'm supposed to do here. I'm going to go to the back rooms first. That way, I can, if I am lucky enough to get all the clues, that I can make sure that the man in the pallid mask spawns by the lobby. That way, when I defeat him, he'll spawn by the lobby. He'll spawn at the lobby, and I'll be right there, and it's easy to get out. It doesn't hold any surprises anymore, and it doesn't have. It has its doubt route. It has its conviction route. And with the Return to set, they did add a third route, which is kind of the neutral route. But you're really in one of those lanes. Like, that's the lane that you're in. And so it's like, yeah, it's fun that we can chase the organist around, or the organist can chase us around, but those are the two versions of that scenario. It's not... I guess if you want the simple version of what the biggest fault of this campaign is, to me, is it's not as replayable in an interesting way as other campaigns are.
Sticking the landing, the finale, like I'm not a big fan of the finale. I've done it like 3 or 4 times now, and we've beaten it twice, lost it twice, and yeah, it just feels anticlimactic. It's just, I don't know. Maybe it's the layout, maybe it's the story cards. I don't know what it is, but compared to say Dunwich, which had like this amazing finale, I think the Carcosa finale just doesn't quite hit.
There's not a lot that Carcosa really does wrong, but one specific thing that I dislike is hidden, the keyword hidden. I don't think it does a whole lot in Carcosa, and it's mostly more trouble than it's really worth. Most of the cards that come with the hidden keyword do not really have specific reasons to hang out in your hand instead of a threat area. They're just discard those for 2 actions anyway, so they're a bit of an action tags, and I don't think the social aspect behind them really works too well. As a solo player, I'm not super not really the one to comment on this too much, but I don't think this really works very well in a group. There's only like 2 different ones in a deck anyways. So
Yeah.
as soon as someone picks up and counter cards and puts it in their hand, you know what's up. And
Yeah.
there's no, oh, I wonder why he didn't move this turn. It's just not a thing. Dream Eaters does it a bit better, I think.
What do you wish was different about the campaign?
I wish there was more, I guess, varieties. Kind of variety. I think variety might be the best word, but it's not in the normal way that I would think about it. So often what makes a campaign rank higher for me is if you've got like side quests and things to do and you're not like on rails, which means when I'm looking at Path to Carcosa, the Last King is one of my favorite scenarios in the campaign. Going around the catacombs in the Pallid Mask is one of my favorite scenarios, because it's just like, here's your mission, you got to figure this out, go. And the order and things happening, or the placement of things happening, is very different. Whereas there's not a lot of side quest stuff going on here other than finding the man in the Pallid Mask and getting chases under him. But if you so happen to have a lead investigator who doesn't have a lot of card draw or a lot of search, you just might not find him. So yeah, that's kind of my thing, where it's just like it doesn't push me to do more or to push me to go into different directions very often. Honestly, and I know this is kind of the unpopular opinion, Echoes of the Past, which is one of the worst in the campaign, because like you just have all the time in the day to do whatever you want to do as long as you're on top of things. I like that scenario. It's not my favorite in the campaign, but I like that scenario because I don't know what I'm going to find, where I'm going to find it, and where things are going to show up. As opposed to Paris is pretty much the same every time I go there. To a lesser extent, what's the seventh scenario?
Black
The one where
Star's
you're on
Rise.
Thank you. Black Star's Rise. Black Star's Rise gets by on its agenda mechanic. But again, if you want to play it safe and kind of peter the two of them out until you know which way you're going, but the Return to set helps with this a little bit, where it obfuscates some of the, especially in Black Star's Rise, it obfuscates the hints about which one is the correct agenda to be following into. But it's just like, I don't know, it just feels like I just want a little bit more to push me into the unknown, into figuring things out on the fly, as opposed to having my plan set out.
Well, a lot of that I just mentioned about the newer design principles, and a lot of things that scale more with the players in mind. There are some ways they do it, especially with like the Echoes of the Past, where they have the scaling cultist to start with. But each of those is like a 4-action problem to start with, so it's not exactly parity, especially when like they're not 1 health enemies, they're 2 health enemies, so you can't just ping them, or you can't just throw a basic swing at them. They're going to take some dedicated effort to get rid of. But a lot of things like that, where I wouldn't call it like amateurish, but it was people who were still testing the waters while trying to convince the public at large that this was like a solid, established thing that they could rely on. Because there are a lot of rough things, like to this day the setup of Black Star's Rise is incredibly confusing. And there's probably a much more elegant way to do it these days that they could have done, but it's what they went with, and it is what it is.
I think about the only thing I'd really want to change in the campaign is probably that third scenario. I don't think overall the campaign needs that much change. Let's say the third scenario and the finale are just a little bit boring. It just needs some tweaks. That's it. It's a campaign that's so close to perfection for me that I feel bad being even slightly critical about it. It's my favorite campaign because it's got the highest quality of scenarios. It's got this great meta theme and meta stuff happening around it, and it's telling a great Lovecraftian story. So yeah, I'm just not sure what more I do aside from elevate some of the lower level scenarios.
Not all that lot. I think it's really good the way it is now. Like there are some mechanical bugs in it that were partially fixed with the return to, like the corpse dweller who can spawn from the stranger in the pale mask. Or I don't believe for even a second that the whole thing with the Onyx clasp and the possessed Chesterfield not overlapping at any point in the campaign is intentional. That's definitely a mistake. Nobody can tell me otherwise. And I think the campaign could have gotten some cleaning up, but other than that, 10 out of 10, no complaints.
Right. I mean, other than the nitpicks that I kind of said about the Dow conviction and the chasing the stranger from before, I mean, I don't think so. I think that the Echoes of the Past scenario, everyone kind of cites as being pretty forgettable. It's okay to have I don't want to say a dud scenario. It's fine, but the energy of I think the first four scenarios, that one's just a lot lighter. And maybe if there was something else to make that more interesting rather than it just being an easier scenario, I think that probably could have been fixed up a bit. That's kind of it, really, though. I don't mind it.
What is your favorite scenario in the Path to Carcosa?
Path to Carcosa has two scenarios that were both my favorite scenario overall in the game at some point. And that's the Palette Mask and Unspeakable Oath. And I don't want to pit them too much against each other. They are both absolutely perfect scenarios. One of them has the best location mechanics we see anywhere, and the other one is just pure Arkham gameplay, right? The thing where you walk around locations, defeat enemies, collect clues, and do things. And you have high stakes with it. There's challenge. There's a lot of decision space. There's no awful gimmicks. Palette Mask and Unspeakable Oath are just insanely good. I think that Oath has aged slightly better because Innsmouth does a lot of the things that Palette Mask does as well. So if I have to name one, it would be Oath.
I think it's the party. I think that is such a great second scenario. It can skew any which way you want. Like a different person popping up at a different time just completely changes how that scenario plays out. We've played it where we've got everyone, and we've played it where we've got one person. Like it has been such a dramatically exciting and swingy scenario, but in a good way. Like it's swingy in a way that feels fun and like the stuff's unexpected, not just this is the game being miserable to me. It's like, whoa, shit, that's happening. We need to react. And then there's also like the bits leading up to it, and then the end where you've got the sort of the fake out. And I love how you've got the option of going to the cops and all that kind. There's all these different things you can do at the end. But ultimately, did anyone at the party go crazy? And then from that point on, you also see those guests again, which I think is really neat. That you're introduced to the 5 characters that are going to pop up in the next 5 missions. And I think they could have maybe done those characters a little bit better, a little bit more interesting later on. But I like that you're introduced to them and see them go feral. And yeah, you got the opportunity to put them all down at the start, which makes the rest of the campaign a lot simpler. And it's just such a dramatic acceleration for a second scenario. So, like, if you're not kitted out to get them clues quick and put down some big scary monsters, because some of them have like 6 or 8 health, don't they? Yeah. They're massive. Yeah. So if you're not kitted out to really go hard, it's you're in trouble. But it's also one of those scenarios where you can go, okay, we got one clue, let's get the hell out of here. Let's bail. You don't have to stay and weather the storm. And that's great because it lets you, as the players, have some agency. You can push your luck. The scenario is difficult, but it's difficult to do everything. It's not necessarily difficult to win or survive. It's difficult to get all 5. That's like pretty tricky. And I like it when Arkham does that. I like it when it goes, here's a sort of entry-level win condition, and you should be able to do that, but here's the actual like bar you can go for. And yeah, great scenario.
Last King and the Palette Mask. The Last King, when they fixed it in the Return to set, let's be clear, when they fixed the Diane Divine glitch, let's just call it, that scenario is very interesting every time you play it. Find the locations and their placement doesn't change, but who's at what location, which one flips. You've got now these just regular party goers who are, when they're not flipped, gunk up your systems and you have to pay them off to get rid of them, or when they are flipped, it's an enemy, but it's not as terrifying, but it adds a doom, so you're clicking to the next one faster. It keeps you on your toes every time. I do know that there's a strategy that I know people will play that makes the scenario kind of boring, which is to say, just wait for people to turn into monsters and kill them, and then just pick up the clues from the locations. I'm not going to say that that is the wrong way to play the scenario. That is a perfectly valid way to play the scenario. It's just not how I want to play the scenario. So if we're using that note to weigh The Last King down, I guess Pallid Mask squeaks out ahead, because man, that scenario with the locations coming up and you having to find your map around, so interesting every single time. Death showing up, or sorry, the specter of death showing up is always a moment of like, okay, how soon is he going to get to us? How far are we? Who can deal with him? If you haven't dealt with Isamaru by then, I believe that's her name, Hiroku, then that's another point where it's like, okay, how are we dealing with her? And then depending on how your path is gone, you have two different endings with two very different objectives. And then a lot of those locations have VP on them, further encouraging you to do more of that like push yourself side quest type stuff. I know it's a big pain in the butt, but I do really like the death itself challenge that was put out. And I include that in the library every year as something that people can check out. I don't believe anyone's actually ever checked it out, because the challenge scenarios are not as popular as just the custom scenarios, but it's there. And if someone was like, hey, do you want to play Death itself? I'm like, oh, heck yeah, let's do that. Let me grab whatever shenanigans and go from there.
I think it might be The Last King. The party is just sort of a landmark scenario that's inspired a lot of, I wouldn't say imitators, but a lot of spin-offs. That kind of like this isn't specifically a spooky combat scenario, this is a social scenario. And a lot of that just is a lot of fun to include in narratives in general. Like, I kind of had my own spin on that in Circus Ex Mortis.
The Pallid Mask. It's the catacombs for sure. Why? Because it's awesome. You just never know exactly what the map is going to be like. It changes every time. It really affects the way you play that scenario. And it's just exciting to play a scenario that is so well designed and yet so different every time.
And with that, Path to Carcosa Week comes to a close. I hope you guys enjoyed watching the videos as much as I enjoyed making the videos. I was able to get a bit more control over the process of doing it all, and I actually had a really fun time, even though some of them were a lot of work. Some of them became easier, so that bodes well for the future. Yes, we're going to keep this going. The Forgotten Age Week is going to be, this point, scheduled for January, so you can keep your eyes and your schedules and your calendars all marked for that. But otherwise, huge thank you to the 5 content creators who joined me in this video. I had a great time talking with you, and I look forward to hopefully reaching out to you again in the future, or, maybe just doing some collaborations with you all, because I've been enjoying the stuff we have been doing, and maybe we can do some more. What am I trying to also say? I'll be honest with you, a little tidbit. I recorded this intro and outro before, and then I realized I didn't unmute OBS, so we had a little bit of a problem where I need to do it again, and I actually already closed my note sheet that I had saved for what to talk about. Path to Carcosa Iron Man is currently happening, or will be happening in 2 hours, depending on when you're watching this, or has already happened, again, depending on when you're watching this. You can find our link to our Twitch page, which has in the video description, which we could be going starting at 9 a.m. Mountain Time on October 26th. If you did miss it, don't worry, I'm going to be uploading the full thing to Twitch, so you can look forward to that as well. Again, in the video description, you can also find a link to all of the content creators that were in this video, kind of just their like home pages for where you can find their most relevant info and all that, all their videos or audio or podcasts or articles, depending on where you go. I want to thank you guys again for your support during Path to Carcosa Week. It means a lot. I feel very lucky and privileged to make content for such an awesome community. And you guys are just great, and you lift my spirits up with your comments, so thank you. If you want to go above and beyond to support the channel, you can do so with the Patreon and join all the names down here. If you feel like Carcosa Week, the effort was worth it, I would love a pledge, a little Patreon, even just if it's just for 1 month. It makes my day. So if you consider it, thank you. If not, and you're just watching, I love you too, so thank you for that. In the meantime, thanks for watching. See you all tomorrow for our back to regular scheduled programming, and see you all in January for Forgotten Age month. Have a good one, and as always, a GG's.